Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit. Let's talk about requests. So where did this come from? I've had this long-standing policy that I don't take requests, and I've had it for a very good reason, but unfortunately some people don't seem to understand it. So let's talk about why. Now, why is this video being made? Well, usually I would never make a video in response to a single comment, but this comment represents everything that's wrong with a certain percentage of the people watching not just my videos, but YouTube videos in general, or pretty much any kind of free internet-based content. These kind of people will always pop up. So we had this comment, and this was in response to a request. It was a veiled request from one of the viewers, and this thing got upvoted to all hell for whatever reason. It has 244 thumbs up at this point. And the comment reads, TB, you say yourself you are not good at puzzles, but you dislike them, and they are in fact oversaturated in the indie market, so why do you do things like this before something more in line with your tastes, like say Strike Suit Zero or Omerta that you said you'd do? Why not do videos on those first and leave stuff like this as the filler when you have nothing else to do? Still sad you never did a video on Of Orcs and Men while you cover in what feels like every puzzler ever. This has 244 thumbs up, so this indicates a fairly serious problem within the viewer base, because this is not just some random guy expressing this feeling. This is a lot of people thumbing this up, either because they like his sentiment or because they disliked mine. That's the possibility. Now, mine, if you can actually believe this, it is possible to actually mark a creator's comment as spam on his own channel, which is just one of the many examples of Google losing their minds and allowing people to do stupid stuff to essentially censor things that they don't like, which is pretty ridiculous. Now, my response to this was, I don't take requests, and I say this in response to pretty much anything that looks like a request, because it is a nice neutral term that says, these are my rules. This is my channel. I don't take requests. Done. Yeah. It's easier to do that than to go off and basically tell him why, because this happens every single day. Yeah, it's a massive, gigantic time sink to respond to everyone that makes a request. Some people make requests in a veiled way, and some people are obvious. It's like, do this video. Yeah, that's a request. And you might think, well, that wasn't a request. It was. It really, really was. This person wanted me to make a video on Of Orcs and Men, and he was disappointed when I didn't. And he also wants me to make videos of Strike Suit Zero and Omerta. And the reason he mentions that, of course, is because he wants videos of that. And he clearly doesn't want videos of puzzles, because you can obviously read into it and say, while you cover what feels like every puzzler ever, ... It's pretty clear what he wants here. You don't really have to be an expert at reading between the lines to see what he's trying to get at. So I respond the way that I respond to everyone that does this kind of thing, which is I do not take requests. This has been a rule that's been in place on the channel for a very, very long time, and it's there for a good reason. Now, unfortunately, some people take this the wrong way, and they have an extremely interesting and, quite frankly, a bit sickening attitude to things. So some other guy comes along and says, it's so unfortunate that you're so arrogant. I wish that someone as successful as you could, for the first time in the history of man, be an actually good person, but you've been taken over by your success on a website. Wow. And here we see the problem. This is the core of most internet arguments. I've been saying this for years, and I still believe it to this very day. It is the bleeding heart. There are some people in this world that seem overly obsessed with niceties and pleasantness. I don't know whether it's because of some deep-seated inner problem that requires them to essentially immerse themselves in that kind of environment, otherwise they get upset. I don't know why. Is it a sense of entitlement? I have no idea. I'm not a psychologist. But what I have noticed from these people is that they will start huge fights and flame wars because they perceived someone's comment as mean. Doesn't have to be mean, and there's no emotion in my comment. All it says is, I do not take requests. That's it. That's the comment. And I must have posted this hundreds of times. People don't believe it, or they just choose to ignore it, and they keep making requests anyway, but this is the standard comment because I don't have time to explain to everybody. But it's gone to the point now where I feel I've got to explain this in a video. As ridiculous as it sounds, I shouldn't even have to talk about this, but I do. I mean, the comment is ridiculous. The whole notion is just absolutely absurd. Apparently, that's what it requires to be a good person. Donating $75,000 to charity last year, driving numerous efforts to better the gaming community, supporting numerous indie developers, blah, blah, blah. This is blowing my own trumpet. I don't have to prove to anybody what a good person I am. And it doesn't even matter, because you don't care that I'm a good person. Be completely honest with yourselves. You don't give a shit. And the reason you don't give a shit is because you are here to watch my videos, and that's it. And if you don't want to watch my videos, you'll go and watch someone else's. This is what you want. You want free internet content that is to your interests. Yeah, that's it. That's as far as our relationship goes. You watch the video, I make the video. That's how far it goes. And we don't want it going any further than that. Unfortunately, the Bleeding Hearts come along, and they interpret anything, regardless of whether or not it's actually nice. Basically, unless I'm sucking the cock, and I hate even using terms like this, but this is actually true, yeah? Unless I'm sucking the cock of the viewer in question, and I am basically lavishing him with praise because he took the time to send in a comment to me, then the people are going to find this offensive. Certain people. Why? I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's beyond me. But people like this start fights all over the place. They are awful. They really, really are. These are very oversensitive people. Maybe they have problems in real life. I don't want to judge. But they start fights, and the exquisite, if somewhat painful irony of their behavior is that they supposedly are looking for relentless positivity, and they're looking for everyone to be pleasant and nice and excellent to one another, and yet they promote flame wars, and they actually use highly negative language to criticize people that they don't perceive as being nice enough. If you can't see the ridiculous hypocrisy in that, then I beg you please take another look, because I don't think you're looking hard enough. Now, let's get off of that topic, because I could go on about Bleeding Hearts and ruining everything for however long, because I've believed this for years, and I've seen nothing but constant evidence of it, and it always happens within the gaming community. It used to happen in World of Warcraft all the time. I used to rail against it on the WoW forums. It was pretty horrible. But here's the point about requests and the way that the channel is designed, the way that the business actually runs. So there's a couple of reasons why I don't take requests. The first one is that if you take one request, you essentially open up the floodgates for more. Yeah? And it's also the same reason why I don't do stuff like birthday shoutouts and everything like that, because if you do one, then everyone expects it. And unfortunately, that makes doing my job more difficult. The reason it makes doing my job more difficult is because if I have to look at comments for feedback, which I do, you know, I try and read everyone's comments even though I shouldn't. The doctor told me not to read them because it stresses me out, but I try and read people's comments and I try and take feedback on board whenever possible. And people also try and have conversations in the comment section. It would be nice if they could. Apparently they can't, though, because they keep getting ambushed by people like that. And if you open up the floodgates to that kind of behavior, then all you get in the comment section is requests. All you get on Twitter is requests. All you get on Facebook is requests. Every time you do everything, people request. And if you don't take their request, they say, well, why didn't you take this guy's request? Fuck you, you're an asshole. I hate you. Unsubscribe. Tell everyone else that this guy's an asshole. It's just easier not to do it. And the second more important reason is that the way that this channel works is dictated by what I want to do with it. And if it's not, and if that ceases to happen, then the channel is going to suck. Yeah? We are called enthusiast press for a reason. Some people use it as a derogatory term, but quite frankly, I find it potentially quite a positive moniker to have. Yeah? We are enthusiast press. We are gaming enthusiasts that got ourselves into a position where people care about our opinions. So we become the enthusiast press, as it were. I'm not really sure what everyone else is. I mean, there's arguments, I suppose, that every games reviewer, critic, first impressions dude, journalist, these are all enthusiasts. They're all enthusiastic about the scene. And that's going to happen with any fairly specialized form of media that isn't just straight up news. But in the case of people that make YouTube videos, it's actually quite literal. We must be enthusiastic about what we're doing in order for our content to not suck. If we do videos we don't want to do, then it's obvious. Yep. It becomes very, very much a job. And you might think, oh, well, that's good. You know, that means you're applying professional standards. No, it doesn't. There are plenty of people that apply professional standards to videos they make and yet make no money out of it whatsoever. They don't make a lot of videos because they can't afford the time. You know, they can't make 2 videos a day like I can. They can't employ someone to do all the content patch editing because it's a massive time sink because they don't have the money to do that, yeah? They haven't turned it into a profession. But they are still professional with their standards. They have a set of principles that they adhere to. However, if you blatantly make a video you didn't want to make and you had no intention of making, then it shows, and anyone can see it. And you need that enthusiasm. You need to be at least somewhat entertaining in this medium in order to get the message across. I never pretend to be a comedian. I don't think I'm very funny. I'm pretty sure I'm not funny. But what I do know is that I have to at least be somewhat entertaining in some way in order to interest you in what I have to say, in order to get you to care about my opinion. And I want you to care about my opinion because I want to have some influence and I want to be able to do positive things within the gaming scene. That's pretty much what I've always wanted to do. I want to influence developer habits. I want good games to get praise. I want bad games to get slammed. I want to change some of the conventions within the gaming scene so they're better for consumers and so on and so forth. That's kind of my goal. The only way I can do that is if I'm allowed to run my channel my way, and if I'm allowed to pick the games that I want to pick. Now, when it comes down to WTF is, there's a few principles that I generally follow in order to try and make these videos. The first thing is it new on Steam? And the reason is because that's what people actually want. They want to know about the latest on Steam, because they see it, and the first thing they want to know is, what is this? Is it any good? That's what WTF is. That's really awkward. I should really change the name of that series. But you get the idea. The point of WTF is to provide exactly what I just said. It's to provide that information. The first thing you're going to do is go to YouTube and find out if I've done a video explaining what the game is. And the older a game gets, the less relevant those videos actually become. They're kind of nice evergreen content, especially when something goes on sale, because someone will go and visit it then. But generally speaking, you want those videos pretty close to release. And I've seen that in my numbers. If I can get a AAA game out and a video put together prior to the release of a game, I will be rewarded with a ton of extra views. And generally speaking, when I do videos, the closer they are to release, the better it is. However, there are certain circumstances where that can't actually happen. Maybe I'm just not in the right frame of mind. Maybe I've already tried to make the video and it came out terribly, so I didn't put it up. And that happens more often than you would think. Yeah, there's quite a few takes done on some of these videos. There are plenty of videos that have just been aborted and never released because they ended up sucking. They just weren't good videos, in my opinion. Like, I wasn't able to convey my message properly. I was stumbling over myself. I might have just been flat out wrong. Sometimes I'll make mistakes. Sometimes that kind of thing will slip through the net. But most of the time, I do try to avoid putting that stuff up. And you might ask, well, why haven't you done a video on Omerta yet? Why haven't you done a video on Strike Suit Zero yet? Okay, so let me tell you about both of those games. Omerta is a strategy game. Omerta is very slow burning. In fact, it's just generally a slow game. It's going to take me a while to really get deep into it to the point where I feel like I have a kind of valid opinion about it. I know from looking at a game how long it's going to take me to really form that opinion. An indie puzzle game or an indie platformer I can generally figure out within the first about 20 minutes of playing. And the only thing that I am then going to be curious about is whether or not the mechanics get super complex later on. With stuff like The Bridge, I know that there's only so much you can really do with the mechanics because the game only has like 4 buttons. So because there are not other buttons bound to different functions, I know that the puzzles are only going to go so far. So I can give a fairly valid first impressions. It's not a review, it's a first impressions. It's to give you an idea of what the game is. It's a live demo with some commentary. That's the point of WTF is. I've never pretended that it was the be-all, end-all definitive source, and it isn't. It never has been. And you shouldn't take it like that. And if you do, then you're silly. You're very, very silly. Please don't. Please use it as part of your research. Do not take it as gospel. It's so silly to do that. With Omerta, I'm like, I don't know, I've got a couple of hours into the game, I'm not really sure about it yet, I've got to keep playing it in order to be sure about it. I need to have those opinions solidified. With Strike Suit Zero, I've run into the annoying situation that the tutorial is far too long and is just horrendously boring. I actually tried to do it 2 nights ago, and I just quit out of the game because I was disgusted by how dull the tutorial was. And I will come back to it when I'm in the right frame of mind to actually deal with that. But frame of mind is very important, because if you go into a video with the wrong frame of mind, you don't deliver the message you want. You allow your emotions to cloud your judgment, or you're just not enthusiastic about it. I can be enthusiastic about a video about a bad game because I know that I've got a lot of good points to make, yeah? Whereas with Strike Suit Zero, I don't really know yet. Now, when it comes down to stuff like Of Orcs and Men is an RPG. Do you want to know how many WTF is I've done of RPGs? Not very many. And the reason is that those games are incredibly slow burning. The only game genre I could think that's more slow burning than that would be Grand Strategy. You want to know how many of those I've done? None. And no, you don't count Civilization. That's not Grand Strategy. I have not done videos of Crusader Kings and Hearts of Iron and Europa Universalis and things like that because I know that they're not suitable videos for the WTF's format, and RPGs are really bad for that too. Of Orcs and Men came along at this really awkward time. Yeah, pun intended. It dropped around the time when I was really, really busy and I had a bunch of other stuff to do, and sometimes games just get missed. They get swept under the rug. However, getting back to the point at hand, it's not okay to start taking requests for those games. How many people really care about Of Orcs and Men now? Yeah, that game has been out for quite some time. That game is less relevant than it was back then. If I'd put a video out around that time, it was released October 11th last year. Yeah, so the game's already about 6 months old. And it's nowhere near the Steam sales charts anymore. No one's talking about it. Nobody really cares about it. And honestly, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to dig into that content right now. But even then, that's not the point. I can give those reasons and say, look, it's my call. And you'd think that would be enough for people to just stop, right? They say, oh, yeah, you're right. It's your channel. You best do what you want to do. Let me tell you why I should do what I want to do. And the reason I should do this is because the last thing you want as a viewer is my content to be dictated by other viewers. That is a terrible idea. It's just dreadful. It's a more extreme version of, say, a band, classic band. Yeah, they've got an amazing set list that they've put together. They researched it. They figured out these are the songs we want to play because we think this is going to let us put on the best show. And then what happens is one guy at the front incessantly screams over and over again for some obscure B-side that nobody wants to hear, and then the band acquiesces to his request and screws up their set list because of that one guy. This is a more extreme version. This is like saying, well, this set list is actually an album track list, and we listened to this one guy that said he wanted this kind of song, even though that's not what we wanted as part of our album, and we did it anyway, and we ruined the album as a result. That's the kind of extremity of it. What you're basically asking for when you make a request is for me to deviate from my schedule, is for me to deviate from the videos that I wanted to make and I decided to make in favor of one that you wanted me to make. Now, some people that don't know what they're talking about think this is a good thing. This is listening to your viewers. No, this is listening to your viewer. I have a lot of viewers. If I take one person's request and I disrupt what they have subscribed for in favor of one guy, I am putting out a massive disservice to everybody else. Why did I listen to that guy and not them? Think about the floodgates that opens up. Why did I decide to do a video of Orcs and Men, which is a 6-month-old RPG, versus The Bridge, which came out 2 days ago? And something that people are really kind of interested in because it looks a bit curious, yeah? It's a weird-looking game. You look at the screenshots, you have no idea what that game is. You don't have a clue. So, hey, I did a video of it, and now you know, and you all came to watch it, right? Think back a second. See if there's a video in the past that I've made that has gotten you to buy a game that you wouldn't previously have bought, that you weren't even aware existed. Think about that. Now think about why that happened. The reason that happened is because I decided to make that video, not because someone requested it, because I decided to make it. Some of the best videos I've made have been of games that I've been really enthused by, and they haven't necessarily been popular games. In fact, quite the opposite. A lot of games that I've really pushed that have not really been well known until I've made them well known. And that's kind of the power of the channel. That's how you can be a positive force for the gaming scene, because you can reward good development practices and you can bypass the marketing hierarchy. You can say, oh, you're an indie dev that works out of his garage and you don't have a marketing budget. That's okay. You don't need to worry about that because I'll do a video about your game and I'll give an honest impression. If your game doesn't suck, then people are going to learn about your game now and you didn't have to do anything. And that's a really good thing to do. That's absolutely fantastic. That's the best way that I know how to help the gaming scene become better for everybody, is to try and reward good practice and try and punish practice that sucks. I cannot do that without my creative freedom. It's just not possible. I cannot do that when my content is being dictated by viewers. Yeah? The whole point is when you build it, they will come. You build a very specific brand and people subscribe to that brand because they know what they're going to get. Yeah? They like a certain amount of consistency. And if they don't get that, then you are doing a disservice to them. You are doing your job wrong. If you disrupt your consistency because someone asks for something different, then you are not going to get anywhere. Everyone knows that I'm not really big into puzzle games, but it doesn't mean that I can just ignore that genre entirely. That's just ridiculous. People want to know what this game's all about. Think about it for a second. I'm not into puzzle games, yet I did that video on Antichamber, and that video blew up in a big way. And as a result, Antichamber shot to the top of the Steam charts. I know it was as a result because my video was pretty much the only highly viewed video when that happened. That's where a lot of this hype came from. A lot of people didn't know about Antichamber before I put a video out about it. That's not a genre that I really am into, but it doesn't matter because other people are. Yeah, I try and provide my best possible perspective for you. And I try and give you that information. I try and expose you to different stuff. Now you might think, well, it doesn't really matter because that guy asked for games you're probably going to do anyway, right? Yeah, eventually I'll probably get around to Strike Suit Zero or Omerta. I might not. I never promise anything, but I will most likely get around to doing those videos at some point. When I feel like I'm in the right frame of mind, when I feel like I'm experienced enough with the game to give you a good, honest first impression of it. But what happens when it's not Omerta and Strike Suit Zero? What happens when it's Minecraft? Because we had that for years. Like, demand after demand, play Minecraft, do Minecraft content. I'm going to unsubscribe if you don't do Minecraft content. And even worse stuff than that. Like, insulting you because you won't play the game that they like. You do not want any individual to have that kind of control. You do not want people to be able to do that. Because it will screw the channel up royally. Now, I do not expect people to really care too much about my feelings. I just make videos on the internet. Yeah? That's it. It's not special. Lots of people do it. If you like them, great. Awesome. Happy about that. That's fulfilling. And I certainly don't expect a huge amount of respect. Because at the end of the day, all I do is make videos on the internet. It's really not a big deal. But you have to have a certain amount of respect for creative freedom and creative control. This is not an industry where you can dictate content. You can't roll up to the drive-thru and order a video because the creators are not going to be happy about that and they're not going to make the content that you want them to make. And once that starts to happen, that's where a channel goes horribly wrong. You cannot trust the opinions of individual people. Everyone likes different stuff. Some people argue that, oh, you don't respect your viewers' opinions. No, I do respect the viewers' opinions. Individual opinions you have to take with a mountain of salt, and you can't necessarily act upon them. Because there are so many of them that you are doing a disservice to everybody else if you capitulate to that one guy. And when it comes down to taking requests, I don't think that's something I should ever compromise on because I made a decision a couple of years ago, and that's been consistently proven true, that the best possible thing I could do for the channel, and as a result all of my viewers, is to make those decisions myself and to direct the channel in the way that I feel is best. I never at any point gave the expectation to anybody that they would be able to control the way the channel went. And that's fine because that's why they subscribed. If I suddenly change that, then I'm doing a disservice to the people that don't want that to happen, right? And you might say, oh, but you're doing a disservice to the people that want requests. Yes, but this is the point. The original position was I don't take requests. People subscribe knowing that. Yeah, it's plastered all over the place. I say it on a daily basis. I mention it in videos. And I make that statement time and time and time again. Sometimes it gets me into trouble. Sometimes Reddit gets upset. Big deal. It blows over. Not a huge concern. But that is the standard that you have come to expect. That is the standard that I gave you. I never offered you anything more than that. But if I change that now, then I do a disservice to everyone that liked the notion that I'm the one in direct control of what's going on this channel, and I'm the one that makes these decisions. If you think that makes me a bad person, then so be it. Feel free to unsubscribe. It's not really a big deal. As I've said before, you'll be replaced. That happens on every channel. I mean, it's amazing how upset people get about that reality. So you do realize the turnover of YouTube channels, right? People are unsubscribing every single day. Huge amounts of people. This is what happens on large channels. You cannot imagine. You only see the numbers going up. You never see them going down. The reason they never go down, of course, is because you always get more subscribers than you lose. But you are consistently losing subscribers every hour of every day. People always leave for whatever reason. This isn't actually a big deal. People's tastes change. People suddenly feel like they're not really interested in your content anymore. Maybe you pissed them off. Maybe they just got mad that you didn't like their favorite video game and they left. This isn't a big deal. You can't worry about that. What you have to worry about is the people that are coming in, not the people that are going out. Especially if the people coming in outnumber the people that are going out. Those are the people you've really got to care about. They subscribe to your channel having seen a certain set of standards, and you've got to stick to them. You can't just go changing things around on them. That's a disservice. That's not caring about your viewers. So that's what you're going to get. That's what you're always going to get. Nothing's going to change in that regard because that's what most of you want. That's what the majority of you want. That's who I'm catering to here. I don't cater to individuals. That's silly. So please, when you hear I do not take requests in future, understand why, and also understand that it is not a personal insult. And if you feel that it is, then you have some deep-seated problems that you need to go figure out with someone. Go to a therapist, go to a shrink, talk to your mother, whatever. This is not something I specialize in. This is something you've got to figure out for yourself, and I still don't take requests. My name's been Total Biscuit, and I will see you next time.